Thank you. Thank you very much for holding this hearing, Madam Chair, and the opportunity to ask questions. Chief Weller, thank you for your service and your testimony. You talked about voluntary, collaborative, incentive-based conservation in your testimony, and I wholeheartedly agree that that's where we ought to head, and it was the reason I was so excited to work with members of this committee in a bipartisan fashion to craft the Farm Bill's conservation title. And notwithstanding the spirit in which that piece of legislation was drafted, we have heard very severe concerns from Colorado about NRCS's implementation of the new agricultural land easement program. Farmers and ranchers in Colorado, rightly believe that they had a huge hand in writing these provisions to begin with, because they did. They literally helped write many of the provisions in the title. And now they have the sense that their will and the will of this committee is being diluted by legal interpretations and bureaucracy at USDA. One quick example, I visited the Eust Ranch outside Kremlin, Colorado this summer, beautiful property, the confluence of the Blue River and the Colorado River, that the Colorado Cattlemen's Ag Land Trust had worked hard to cover with an easement. At the 11th hour, before the deal was finalized, NRCS came in and told the Land Trust they needed to secure a right-of-way over adjacent BLM land, despite the fact that a new right-of-way couldn't be established because BLM is the owner. The ranch felt that this NRCS requirement was a solution in search of a problem. I'd say that's polite. And in the end, NRSC did grant a waiver at the very end, which I appreciate, the requirement for the use deal. But what I want to convey to you is that the legal interpretation made no sense to anybody that had anything to do with drafting the legislation, including the Cattlemen's Land Trust. And beyond these right-of-way concerns, we're also concerned about the new rules to govern the easement program and the decreases in funding that Congress allotted for this program. A concern that a lot of that's being spent on overhead and on NRCS's own programs, and not to help farmers and ranchers, producers, stay on their land and put their land into voluntary easement. So with all that in mind, could you talk to us a little bit about what NRCS is doing to ensure that the conservation title actually works as intended and efficiently for our farmers and ranchers on the ground? And will you please pledge to work with me and other members of the committee to rectify some of the deficiencies that we're hearing about? This is happening in real time in our states, and I would really appreciate a response.
So let me start with the affirmative. Absolutely be willing to work with you and your staff and stakeholders in Colorado, but also in any state that have concerns about our delivery of the programs. It's very concerning to me if there's a perception or a real experience about additional bureaucracy. If there's anything, we need to reduce that and get out of the way. And in the example you provided of not having to provide or secure access over public lands, we're taking a hard look at that and trying to apply a little bit of country common sense. And so we're going to be updating that and fixing that.
I would say, just on that point, that at least to my mind, the interpretation in that case, or the requirement, which was not a requirement that any federal agency, any other federal agency is ever required of any landowner that I'm aware of in our state, because it would be impossible to do it, is exactly a piece with the legal interpretation that your general counsel's office is promoting with respect to these provisions. So I just want to make sure you're not left with the impression that this was a one-time problem.
I'm aware of this, not just in this one example. Okay. This is particularly with the checkerboard pattern of land ownership throughout the West. This is a problem that we need to fix, and we are going to fix quickly.
And I would say thank you for appreciating that. A lot of what we were trying to do with this legislation, at least in my mind, was have a Western perspective actually inform the Farm Bill when it came to conservation. You mentioned in your opening testimony the importance not just of water quality, but of water quantity. That was a huge issue for us as well. So I just want to volunteer to be at your disposal as you look at this to make sure that we're getting to the outcome that our farmers and ranchers really expected us to achieve.
So we have not been idle over the last several months. So with the Farm Bill passing in February, we had to get the Ag Land Easement Program up and running in a matter of months. But in the interim, we have been working with land trusts, different conservancy groups, state agencies to try and understand in part, we know it was a little bit of a shotgun marriage coming out this summer with a new ag land easement program. Right now, we're finalizing our regulations, and I'd be happy to visit with you or your staff as we're finalizing those regulations, just to update you as kind of where we are.
That would be great, and I'd also volunteer to give you the names of some people in Colorado that I think you ought to talk to before.
I would welcome that.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.